Have you heard about Nikola Tesla's secret project? What would happen if I told you that one of the greatest geniuses in history developed an invention so revolutionary that after his death mysteriously disappeared? Something so powerful it could change the destiny of humanity forever. But we're not talking about electrical energy or even your ideas about the future. We are talking about a project that was so hidden that to this day no one knows where he is. Or worse, who stole Tesla's ideas. Tesla, in his final days, was working on something that could transform the world. And the secrets of that project disappeared the moment he passed away. What was he actually creating? And why should the government, secret agencies, and even rival scientists were they so interested in their discoveries? Get ready for a mysterious journey where you will discover the most insane and never revealed about the project Tesla left behind. Stay until the end, because what you will hear may change your view of what is possible. And before you leave, don't forget to subscribe. What comes next will surprise you. Chapter 1. Tesla's Last Night. On the cold night of January 7, 1943, a thin man with white hair and tired eyes rested alone in a simple room at the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan. His name was Nikola Tesla. At 86 years old, he was almost blind, forgotten by the world and living his last days in silence, living only on milk, cookies, and fruit as he had done in recent years. The man who was once hailed as the master of electricity, the visionary who dreamed of a planet powered by free energy, was now ignored, considered eccentric, a forgotten genius amid the noise of war that was taking over the world. Just before midnight, the hotel staff were surprised by the silence coming from room 232. Tesla used to leave signals when he didn't want to be disturbed, but that night, something seemed different. When they finally entered, they found his lifeless body, lying on the bed, with his eyes closed and a serene expression, as if he had left in peace. But there was something about that scenario that didn't make sense. The room seemed in order, nothing turned over, no signs of a struggle. But the safe where Tesla kept his most important documents was locked. Inside it, according to reports from people close to it, were the unfinished projects of his greatest invention. Something he had been calling in recent years his final work. It was a machine that he believed was capable of changing the course of humanity. But when investigators returned the next day to collect the belongings, the safe was empty. No notes, no technical schematics, no clues. Everything was gone, as if it had never existed. No explanation was given, no culprit was found, just silence and rumors. That night, it wasn't just one man who died. It was also the end of a legacy that could have redefined the future. What happened inside remains a mystery to this day. But for many, this was not a simple death. It was the beginning of one of the strangest and most hidden stories of the 20th century. Because what Tesla created, that last night, may never have been seen in the eyes of the world. Or even worse, maybe someone decided the world should first see it. Chapter 2. The Locked Vault. Room 3327 at the New Yorker Hotel held more than a lifeless body on that early morning in January 1943. It held secrets. Papers stacked in folders, mysterious sketches on makeshift tables, and, in the darkest corner, a safe. Closed. Sealed with the same rigor with which Tesla protected his ideas. For many, that safe was just another object in the chaos he called his office. But for the few who knew where they were standing, there could be something inside that would change the fate of the world. Hours after the discovery of the body, U.S. government agents discreetly arrived at the scene. They didn't wear uniforms, but their eyes betrayed haste and knowledge. The first thing they did was isolate the room. No hotel staff had further access. The silence was absolute. The corridors are empty. The atmosphere was that of a secret operation in enemy territory. The next morning, when Tesla's nephew Sava Kosanovich entered the room, something had changed. The safe was open, but there was no sign of a break-in. No visible damage, just the empty space where Nikola Tesla's most precious documents once rested. It was as if they had disappeared effortlessly, as if someone knew exactly what they were looking for. Kosanovich, a Yugoslav politician and diplomat, knew his uncle well. He knew Tesla would never leave that safe open. And I also knew that there were projects there that were never shared with the world. Declassified government documents would later reveal that the Alien Property Office had confiscated all of the inventor's belongings under emergency war legislation. But there is a stark difference between confiscating and disappearing with evidence. What was in that safe was more than inventions. These were ideas that could shake power structures, redraw the world energy map, and question everything that was known about physics at the time. Witnesses who worked at the hotel stated years later that they saw men carrying sealed boxes in silence, as if they were carrying relics. Some said there were diagrams with strange symbols. Others claimed that they heard the agents mention terms such as electromagnetic pulse and invisible weapons. But none of this information officially reached the press. Why was the safe opened? Who had the key? And why so much interest in documents that, according to many, were nothing more than the daydreams of an eccentric old man? The answer may lie in a detail that few noticed at the time. The month before his death, Tesla had written a letter to the Yugoslav government saying that he was completing an invention that would render any army useless, an invisible defense capable of stopping any attack. He called it his final work, and it said that the plans were protected with maximum security. Now, with the safe empty, the question that echoed was just one. Was that just a coincidence, or a carefully planned robbery? Whatever was inside, it wasn't just valuable, it was dangerous, and it disappeared forever the night Nikola Tesla left this world. Chapter 3. The Arrival of the Government. The morning after Nikola Tesla's death, something happened behind the scenes that few know about, but that forever changed the fate of his discoveries. While the inventor's body was still lying in room 3327 of the New Yorker hotel, men in dark suits discreetly arrived at the scene. They were not doctors nor ordinary police officers. They were there with a specific mission. They entered silently, passed through reception without fanfare, and went upstairs in a hurry, as if they already knew exactly what to look for. Inside the room, there were more than just personal items. On the desk, spread across folders and notebooks, were the scribbles of his latest ideas. But what really caught our attention was the large iron safe in the corner of the room. Tesla used to keep his most important documents there, and that morning, that safe would be opened. According to witnesses, the safe was sealed shortly after his death, but in less than 24 hours, it was already empty. Nobody saw who opened it. No records were made. The content disappeared as if it had never existed. Days later, an almost unknown body of the American government called the Custodian of Foreign Enemy Property assumed responsibility for the inventor's belongings. A strange detail, since Tesla had lived in the United States for decades and was not even considered a threat. Why then treat your documents with so much confidentiality? The name that appears in the operation files is that of John G. Trump, a renowned electrical engineer, MIT professor, and military consultant. He was tasked with examining the remaining papers, and his opinion was short and direct. Nothing that posed a danger, nor anything technically viable. But there was a silence between the lines, as if he was saying less than he actually saw. Behind the scenes, rumors were swirling. Some said that Tesla was about to offer the world a free and unlimited source of energy, which could end the economic model of big companies. Others claimed that he had developed schemes for a directed energy weapon capable of shooting down planes from miles away. Whatever the truth, something about these documents scared authorities enough that they were locked away, archived, and, to this day, never fully revealed. On the surface, everything seemed bureaucratic. A man dies, his belongings are seized, an expert reviews the papers and files what is necessary. But for those who look deeper, this sequence of events holds the beginning of one of the greatest scientific mysteries of the century. It wasn't just about patents or inventions. It was about something that Tesla discovered alone in the last days of his life. Something that could change everything, and that for some reason, someone wanted to hide. And perhaps the scariest thing is to think that these people didn't act out of fear of Tesla's failure, but on the contrary, for fear that he was right. Chapter 4. The Death Ray Project. During the last years of his life, Nikola Tesla spoke less and less to the world, but at times he blurted out ideas that seemed straight out of science fiction. One of them, the most enigmatic and feared, he called Teleforce. The press at the time gave it another name, the Death Ray. Tesla claimed that he had created technology capable of firing a beam of energy so powerful that it could bring down planes from miles away, with surgical precision. He said it was not an ordinary ray like light, but a concentrated flow of charged particles, accelerated by an electrostatic field. Unlike any weapon ever created, this project did not use gunpowder or explosives. He used the power of electricity, itself shaped by his genius. According to Tesla, this invention was not meant to attack, it was to defend. He believed that if all nations had this power, none would dare attack another. The world would live in peace, not out of love, but out of fear. It was, in his words, the weapon to end all wars. But there was a problem. No government wanted to finance the project. Tesla offered the invention to the United States, then to the United Kingdom, then to the Soviet Union. Everyone listened, none accepted. But the most intriguing thing came later. In interviews shortly before he died, Tesla suggested that he had built a working prototype, or at least essential parts of it. But no one has ever seen this machine. There are no physical records, no photographs, just vague descriptions, incomplete, notes and loose sentences in notebooks that disappeared after his death. And that is precisely where the mystery intensifies, because days after Tesla was found dead in his hotel room, the American government confiscated all of his belongings. Documents, drawings, formulas. Everything was taken by a secret department, based on the justification of national security. And since then, the Death Ray Project has become a legend. Some say he was never more than a fantasy. Others believe that the government used Tesla's ideas in clandestine experiments. There are those who say that this technology gave rise to the defense systems we know today, but silently, outside the books, out of the public eye. Because if a weapon like this really existed, it would be more powerful than any bomb ever created. What Tesla wanted was not to dominate. He wanted to stop the world from destroying itself. But perhaps the world was never ready for his vision. Perhaps deep down, the men who decided to hide their project knew that such power, in the wrong hands, would not end wars. It would only change who would win them. What if this project is still stored, hidden in some government vault waiting for the right moment to reappear? Or worse, what if it is already in use, silently, as part of something much bigger than we can imagine? Chapter 5. Fragments of the Future. For years, the world believed that Tesla's documents were gone forever. But then, small fragments began to emerge, not in newspapers, not in museums, but in obscure auctions, forgotten files and interviews that no one took seriously. The pages were yellowed, marked by complex formulas and enigmatic drawings. Lines intersected like electrical mazes. Some had no beginning, others had no end. In one, a handwritten note read, "The world is not ready, not yet." Experts tried to figure it out, but nothing made complete sense. It was as if Tesla had divided a huge project into parts, scattered the pieces, and left an enigma for the future. There were ideas there that defied known logic. Wireless energy, he had already demonstrated that. But in these roles, he went further. Tesla talked about transmissions, a force over a distance, of invisible structures that could protect entire cities. He mentioned a concept he called vibrational shielding, something capable of blocking attacks before they even happen. Other scribbles suggested he was trying to manipulate the planet's frequencies. Some notes indicated tests with resonance. According to him, everything vibrates, and whoever controls vibration controls matter. The time, reality itself. It was as if he was trying to talk to the future, or warn him. But there was something even stranger, a sequence of numbered pages that jumped from number 7 to number 13, 6 sheets missing, and these, to this day, have never been found. Some researchers believe that the real secret was in them. the key that united all the parts. The final piece of a puzzle that could change everything. And then the question arises that no one dares to answer out loud. If these ideas were just in drafts, why did anyone bother to hide them? Why so much effort to make the world forget? Perhaps what Tesla wrote in these fragments was not just a plan, but a warning. Something he saw approaching, something he tried to stop but knew was already on its way. And now, with each new fragment discovered, we only know one thing for sure. He saw far beyond his time, maybe too far. Chapter 6. Tesla and Extraterrestrial Contact. Nikola Tesla was much more than a genius inventor. He was a man who saw beyond the limits of his time. While the world was still trying to understand electricity, Tesla was already thinking about how to communicate with other civilizations in the universe, and according to him, he had already achieved it. At the end of the 19th century, during one of his experiments in Colorado Springs, Tesla captured something that left him uneasy throughout his life: radio waves that didn't seem to come from Earth. Rhythmic, spaced pulses, as if someone, or something, was trying to talk to him. At first, he thought it was atmospheric interference, but the more he investigated, the more certain he became that there was a pattern there. A smart pattern. Tesla recorded everything in his diary. He said it wasn't a simple repetition of signs. There was intention, there was structure, and most disturbingly, the signals repeated at similar times for several nights. According to him, these pulses came from Mars. That's right. Tesla believed he was receiving communications from Mars, and he didn't just keep it to himself. In interviews and public letters, he clearly stated, "The signals are coming from beings that have intelligence." The scientific community laughed. They called them daydreams, a fantasy. But decades later, when scientists began picking up radio emissions from space, many began to wonder, what if Tesla was right? The most curious thing is that these signals did not stop. They've only gotten harder to track. In little publicized documents, there are reports that Tesla secretly built a transmitter with the ability to send high-frequency messages directly into space. And according to contemporary testimony, he believed he had received an answer. What is most intriguing is that, shortly after these experiments, Tesla began working on a project that no one fully understood. He said he was developing an interplanetary communication device, not a simple radio, something capable of interacting with life forms that don't express themselves like us. Enigmatic words, difficult to interpret, but they reveal a man obsessed with a contact that perhaps actually happened. In his later years, Tesla isolated himself even more. It said that they were watching, that certain messages reached his mind without him knowing how. There are those who say that this isolation was not a choice. It was an imposition, a silence. Because if Tesla did indeed establish some kind of contact, what he discovered could have changed everything. And perhaps that's why it was deleted. Almost all of his documents on this topic have disappeared. What remains are fragments, disjointed notes, and a question that spans the decades like an echo from space. What if he really spoke to someone who was not of this world? Chapter 7. The Nephew and the Hidden Truth. Sava Kosanovich was more than just Nikola Tesla's nephew. He was also his legal heir, and one of the few who still had intimate access to the inventor's eccentric and genius mind. When Tesla died alone, in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel, it was Sava who rushed to the scene. But what he found there would forever change his perception of truth. Upon arrival, the room was completely silent. There was no sign of a break-in, but there was something different in the air, as if someone had already been there, as if the space had already been carefully searched. Tesla's safe, which until the previous day had been locked, was now open. And most alarmingly, it was completely empty. No documents, no sketches, no prototypes, just open drawers and dust where secrets once were. Sava alerted authorities, but by the time the FBI arrived, the room had already been emptied a second time. The official excuse was that Tesla's documents could contain strategic information and would therefore be analyzed by the government. But behind the scenes, Kosanovich began to hear whispers, voices saying that the most valuable papers had disappeared even before the police arrived, that someone, possibly linked to much larger interests, had anticipated it. Years later, in a forgotten interview, Sava revealed a cryptic sentence. "They didn't want the world to see what my uncle discovered." When asked who they were, he looked away and responded only with silence. But that silence said it all. The insinuation was clear. Tesla's discoveries went beyond the limits of ordinary science. His studies on wireless energy transmission, electromagnetic weapons, and even communication with other life forms could change the world, or threaten the global balance of power. Kosanovich always believed that his uncle's secret project, the EYES, one that Tesla protected so zealously, contained information that could free humanity from energy dependence, armed conflict, and even the limitation of time and space. But he also believed that revealing this to the world meant challenging interests that were too powerful. Therefore, throughout his life, he kept part of what he knew silent, not out of cowardice, but out of fear of the consequences. I once said that certain knowledge, when it falls into the wrong hands, does not build, they destroy. And perhaps that is exactly what happened with Nikola Tesla's secret project. He didn't disappear by accident. It was deleted, deliberately. But the question remains, who actually had access to the original documents? And most disturbing of all, what are they doing with this knowledge, hidden in the shadow of history? Chapter 8. Connections to the Montauk Project. Decades after Nikola Tesla's death, his name reappeared in one of the most mysterious and controversial accounts in recent history. At an abandoned military base in upstate New York, rumors began to circulate of secret experiments that seemed straight out of science fiction films. It was called the Montauk Project. At first, there was only talk of advanced radar tests, but as former employees, engineers, and even soldiers began to come forward with similar accounts, an unsettling pattern emerged. They spoke of experiments involving mind control, teleportation, time travel, and the opening of dimensional portals. Many laughed, saying it was pure conspiracy. But then a detail emerged that changed everything. The theoretical basis of some experiments, according to reports, came from Nikola Tesla's lost documents. In recorded statements, technicians said they had worked with manuals that cited handwritten formulas, supposedly created by Tesla decades earlier. These papers would be among the materials confiscated after his death, locked, classified, silenced. One of them, known only as Document 0, would describe a method of manipulating electromagnetic fields to fold space-time around a physical object. This was exactly what the Montauk Project claimed to be trying to achieve. Even more disturbing was the fact that the location of the main experiment, Fort Hero, was on Long Island, the same region where Tesla worked in his final years. Some witnesses claim that the most advanced tests were only possible after scientists received a mysterious shipment of ancient documents with no defined origin, strange diagrams, never-before-seen circuits, equations that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Many believed that there were fragments of Tesla's secret project, which disappeared from his safe in 1943. And then came the hard-to-ignore coincidences. Several names linked to the Montauk Project had also appeared in military records during World War II, precisely in the groups that analyzed Tesla's roles for the government. Could it really be a coincidence? Or is it part of a veiled continuity, where Tesla's work was used in secret, away from the public eye? Unconfirmed reports claim that one of the experiments went wrong. A portal would have been opened, and something came through on the other side. Since then, all data has been sealed. Those involved disappeared or were silenced. The base has been closed. The experiments officially ended. But nothing was ruled out. Nothing was clearly denied. Just forgotten. Tesla's name was never publicly mentioned in the Montauk Project files, but he was there, between the lines, in the calculations, in the signs. The man who wanted to illuminate the world perhaps touched something far beyond light, something the world still doesn't understand, and maybe I should never understand. Chapter 9. The Lost Revelation. The year was 1943. World War II was at its height. Nikola Tesla had just died in his room at the New Yorker Hotel, alone, poor and practically forgotten. But the moment his body was found, something moved behind the scenes. It didn't take long for the American government to take control of the scene. Agents entered his room, sealed the place, and took everything they found. But who commanded this operation? A name little known at the time, but which would become much more famous years later, appears in official documents. John George Trump, an MIT professor and specialist in electrical engineering, was the man chosen to analyze Nikola Tesla's secret papers. He had direct access to the safe personal notebooks and diagrams that were never shown to the public. The version released by the government was direct and cold. Tesla's papers contained no practical applications, just fanciful ideas impossible to realize, and with that, the case was closed. But the truth doesn't disappear so easily. Decades later, in a little publicized interview, John Trump would let slip something disconcerting. When asked if Tesla's shares had any hidden value, he responded hesitantly. He said that there were indeed advanced concepts, but that they were beyond the current understanding of science. And then he finished with a cryptic phrase that has disappeared from official records. Perhaps some ideas should never be used. What did he mean by that? Was it an attempt to protect the world from something dangerous? Or a way to hide discoveries that could shake global power structures? Sources close to the case claim that there was, among the documents, a set of coded notes. Tesla wrote in symbols, mixed languages, and changed formulas on purpose to hide the real information. John Trump would have understood part of this code, and what he saw there made him recommend the immediate archiving of the material. Nothing was published. No detailed report has been revealed. Just silence. Interestingly, a few years after this episode, patents in military technologies began to appear with concepts very similar to those that Tesla had already described decades before. Directed energy weapons, defensive electromagnetic fields, radars that predicted enemy movement. All of this began to emerge in secret laboratories, as if it came out of nowhere. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the synchrony raises suspicions. The world may not have seen Tesla's documents, but someone saw it. And maybe I used it. The real question is not where the papers are. The question is, who has them now? And the scariest thing, were they used, or are they just waiting for the right moment to be activated? The official story tried to convince us that nothing was found. But the silences, the contradictions, and the subtext tell a much darker narrative. Tesla's revelation wasn't just lost. She was silenced, and perhaps behind the silence lies the key to a technology that could change, or destroy, everything we know. Chapter 10. What if he had won? Imagine for a moment a world where Nikola Tesla's words were not ignored, where his inventions did not disappear into the shadows after his death. A world where his vision of free energy for all, without wires, without limitations, became a global reality. Can you see this? A planet where people would not need to pay for electricity, where machines would be powered by natural and clean sources, a future without the need for fossil fuels. If he had won, today we would not be facing the environmental crises we see, because the solution would be within everyone's reach. But instead, we are trapped in a centralized energy system controlled by a few, while the man who imagined a different world has been left to be forgotten. And what about his other inventions? Tesla didn't just want to revolutionize the way we use energy. He wanted to transform our entire perception of reality. He spoke of weapons that could stop wars before they started, of interplanetary communications, and even of time travel. And all of this seemed to be within his reach. But something went wrong. What he discovered seemed to go beyond the understanding of the time, maybe even from our time. And most frighteningly, we may never be ready for what he knew. His mind was so ahead of his time that the world didn't know how to deal with him, how to deal with his ideas. Have you ever wondered why Tesla's project disappeared so quickly? Was society not ready for the true freedom he wanted to give us? Did the forces that control world power realize what was at stake and take measures to ensure that their plans do not go beyond theory? It wouldn't be surprising that when a person like Tesla emerges, challenging the conventions of power, things start to get complicated. Tesla didn't want to be rich. He didn't want power. He wanted to give the world a new way of existing, without the shackles of greed and corruption that govern the distribution of resources today. He believed that electricity could be used to unite the world, to heal, and to expand our understanding of the cosmos. But what do we see today? What's left? Energy is still being controlled, large corporations still hold power, and Tesla's ideas remain hidden in secret archives far from public view. What if Tesla had won? What if his inventions had been released to the world? Perhaps humanity was already in an era of peace, freedom, and abundance. Perhaps we were already making discoveries that today still seem impossible. What would have become of us if Tesla had been supported instead of silenced? Not only could it have transformed our relationship with energy, but it also changed the very structure of our society. But the truth is that the world was not prepared for this. And maybe, just maybe, what he left us is a message from the future, a reminder that there is something more, something greater, waiting to be discovered. Because even though Tesla's inventions are lost forever, the idea of a new and better world has never stopped being ours. Perhaps Tesla's true mission was not simply to invent, but to inspire us to follow the path he started, to continue his research and to believe that one day his dreams could become real. And who knows, maybe that day isn't as far away as we think. If you were as impressed as I was by Nikola Tesla's legacy and the mystery behind the project he left for the world, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more stories and revelations like this. Tesla's future is still in our hands, and perhaps together we can uncover even more secrets hidden in time. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think would have happened if Tesla had won? Leave your opinion in the comments, and let's continue this conversation. Who knows what else we might discover when we share our ideas?